America spends more money to build 1 mile of subway than any other country on Earth. New York's 2nd Avenue extension costs over $2 billion per mile, a price tag so high that even London, Tokyo, and Paris look cheap by comparison. And this isn't just about trains. A bridge in Pittsburgh literally collapsed on the exact same day President Biden traveled there to talk about infrastructure. That's not a coincidence. That's a symbol of the problem. Meanwhile, California's high-speed rail, originally budgeted at $33 billion, has exploded past $113 billion. And after more than a decade, it's still not finished, not operational, and nowhere near the system voters were promised. So the question isn't, do we have a problem? It's how did we get here? Because Americans are frustrated, and honestly, they have every right to be. Across the country, over 43,000 bridges are officially rated structurally deficient. Highways crumble faster than they can be repaired. 1 out of every 5 miles of roadway is in poor condition. Trains break down, buses run late, subway stations flood, and traffic is a daily punishment. People look around and say, we pay some of the highest taxes. We have the biggest economy. We're supposed to be the most advanced country in the world. So why does everything feel like it's falling apart? And that frustration is real. It's bipartisan. It doesn't matter if you live in a red state or a blue state. Everyone can see that American infrastructure feels stuck in the past. It feels slow. It feels fragile. And every attempt to fix it somehow ends up costing more and delivering less. Which brings us to the central question of this entire video. America is not a poor country. America is not lacking engineers. America is not lacking technology or talent. So why, with all this money, all this knowledge, all these resources, can't the United States build anything at a reasonable cost? Why does every project take longer, cost more, and deliver less than the rest of the developed world? That is the mystery we're going to break down. And the answer has nothing to do with ability and everything to do with the system behind how America builds.
In most European projects, 3 people can handle a task. In the United States, that same task often requires 10, sometimes 20. Not because Americans are less skilled, but because the rules demand long lists of job classifications that don't actually improve the work. On a typical tunnel project, you're required to have a dedicated fire safety officer, a dedicated elevator operator, a flagger who does nothing but wave cars through, and a supervisor whose entire job is just watching. And none of these positions can be combined or streamlined because union contracts and state regulations lock the system in place. It's not that Americans are lazy, it's that the system forces them to work in the most expensive way possible, and the bill goes straight to taxpayers. Then you have the consultants, design consultants, compliance consultants, auditing consultants, project management consultants, layers and layers of firms billing the project by the hour. Everyone gets a slice, but nobody is truly responsible. Each group adds 10 to 30% overhead, and when you stack 10 groups on top of each other, you get numbers that spiral into the billions. New York's subway extension literally hired over 1,000 consultants for a project that should have been straightforward. More managers than workers, more meetings than progress, and costs that explode for reasons no one can clearly explain. Before a single shovel touches the ground, American projects can spend 5 to 10 years doing paperwork. A NEPA environmental review can run 500 pages, sometimes 3,000. And the public comment process? That can drag on for years. All it takes is one neighborhood group, one environmental lobby, or one lawsuit to freeze an entire project. Meeting after meeting, hearing after hearing, endless studies, endless revisions, endless delays. America spends more time talking about building than actually building. And while the paperwork stacks up, the cost meter keeps running. The United States is the most lawsuit-heavy country on Earth. Anyone can sue a project. Environmental groups, local residents, rival companies, small businesses, anyone who claims to be affected. A single lawsuit can pause construction for 2 or 3 years. And every year of delay adds 40 to 200% to the final cost. In Europe, the sequence is simple: plan, build. In America, the sequence is plan, meet, get sued, pause, budget explodes, meet again, and then maybe build. This legal minefield doesn't just slow projects down, it makes them exponentially more expensive. And finally, the decision-making system. American infrastructure is split between federal agencies, state governments, counties, city councils, transit authorities, and private contractors. No single group has the final say. Everyone has partial control, partial funding, and partial veto power. That means delays, conflicts, scope changes, and decisions that take months instead of minutes. Too many bosses, not enough builders. And every additional layer adds more cost to a system that's already drowning in it. So when you combine overstaffing, endless consultants, years of permitting, constant lawsuits, and a fragmented decision-making structure, you get the most expensive construction system in the developed world. Not because Americans can't build, but because the system makes it nearly impossible to build efficiently.
If you want to see how America's construction system breaks, you don't need a theory. You just need to follow the money. Because every major project in this country tells the same story. A big dream, an exciting announcement, and then a slow, painful collapse into delays, lawsuits, and billions that vanish without a trace. It's almost cinematic, except it's real and taxpayers paid for the ticket. Take New York, for example. New York doesn't build subways so much as it builds world records, just not the kind anyone wants. The Second Avenue subway costs $2 to $3 billion per mile. Not for some futuristic magnetic train, not for a tunnel under the Atlantic, just 1 mile of track under Manhattan. At that price, you could literally buy a private island, build a luxury resort on it, and still have money left over. Tokyo builds entire subway systems for less than what New York pays for a single stop. And the reason is almost absurd. New York's construction ecosystem isn't designed to build efficiently. It's designed to feed itself. Too many workers assigned to tiny tasks. Too many consultants writing reports no one reads. Too many layers of rules written decades ago that no one wants to update. New York didn't just overspend. It engineered a system that guarantees overspending. You could bring in the world's best contractors and still get the same disaster because the system swallows efficiency whole. But if New York is the most expensive example, California high-speed rail is the most tragic. It started as America's moonshot, a sleep bullet train linking the state at lightning speed, a symbol of American ambition returning. But instead of a train, California built a timeline of broken promises. The projected cost jumped from $33 billion to $113 billion, and decades later, the rails still aren't finished. At some point, it stopped being a transportation project and became a museum exhibit of everything that slows America down. Lawsuits that froze construction for years, environmental reviews that grew thicker than textbooks, counties fighting like divorced parents over who gets the train, and land purchases that moved at the speed of paperwork, not progress. California didn't run out of engineers. It ran out of political oxygen. No system built around 2-year election cycles can survive a 40-year megaproject. The train wasn't the problem, the country building it was. And then there's Boston's Big Dig, maybe the closest thing the United States has ever had to an infrastructure soap opera. It was supposed to cost $2.6 billion and finish quickly. Instead, it dragged on for 25 years and cost $24 billion. Think about that. A project meant to ease traffic ended up spanning an entire generation. Kids were born, grew up, graduated high school, and the Big Dig was still digging. Every possible mistake showed up for this one project. Engineering failures, design flaws, political pressure, and a mountain of contracts stacked on top of each other like a Jenga tower ready to collapse. At some point, the Big Dig wasn't a construction job. It was a symbol of what happens when a project becomes so tangled that no one knows who's actually in charge. Not a tunnel, but a warning. And just when you think these disasters only happen in massive cities with complicated histories, look at Honolulu. A small city, beautiful setting, straightforward project, and yet their layer line still exploded from $5 billion to $12 billion. Honolulu proves the most uncomfortable truth of all. These aren't New York problems or California problems or old city problems. They're American problems. Even paradise can't escape the country's infrastructure curse. Each of these cities failed in a different way, but when you step back, the pattern is almost too clear. New York drowned in staffing and consultants. California got crushed under politics and lawsuits. Boston collapsed under mismanagement. Honolulu choked on fragmented authority. Different stories, different mistakes, different landscapes, yet one root cause connects them all. America's system is too complicated for its own good. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. This isn't about bad workers or bad engineers. It's about a country trying to build 21st century infrastructure with a 20th century process tied down by 19th century bureaucracy. A system where delays multiply, paperwork grows like weeds, and the bill goes higher every day you do nothing. In the end, these projects don't fail because Americans lack skill. They fail because the system itself is designed to lose time, lose money, and lose momentum. And as long as that system stays in place, every new mega project will carry the same warning label. This will take longer and cost more than you can possibly imagine.
If there's one thing we forget in these conversations, it's this. America used to build like no other country on Earth. And not just buildings. America built symbols, monuments of human will, projects that didn't just solve problems, they defined eras. Look at the Hoover Dam. It wasn't just concrete and steel. It was a statement, a message to the world that America could bend nature itself and turn it into power. Look at the Interstate Highway System. Eisenhower didn't ask for permission from 20 committees. He didn't wait for decades of environmental reviews. He saw a national need, designed a national plan, and delivered a network that changed the country forever. Look at the Golden Gate Bridge, something people called impossible, too windy, too deep, too dangerous, but America built it anyway, and it became an icon recognized worldwide. And if you really want a reminder of what America used to be capable of, just say the words Manhattan Project. In 4 years, America mobilized scientists, factories, trains, entire cities, all coordinated with a level of purpose and speed that feels alien today. America didn't just build something big, it built something that changed the direction of human history. So no, this country is not incapable. It never was. But here's the uncomfortable truth. What broke wasn't American engineering. What broke was the American system around it. Today's America isn't struggling because the workers lack skill or because the technology isn't good enough. It's struggling because the system has become a maze, fragmented authority, decision-making that moves at the speed of fear, endless stakeholders who can all say no, but almost none who can say yes. Incentives that reward caution, not progress. A legal environment where the fastest way to stop a project is simply to sue it. And leaders who are terrified of signing off on anything because one small mistake can become a career-ending scandal. That's not a construction problem. That's a structure problem. The real question, the one that only Americans can answer, is this. Can the United States fix a system that no longer knows how to build? Can it redesign the process, rewrite the rules, streamline the decisions? Or will America continue being the world's most expensive builder? Not because it wants to be, but because the system leaves it no other choice. Because here's the reality. Every country has challenges. Every country has politics. Every country has bureaucracy. But not every country pays 10 times more for the same mile of track. Not every country takes 30 years to finish a 20-year-old idea. Not every country turns ambition into paperwork and paperwork into paralysis. America has all the talent it needs, all the resources it needs, all the innovation it needs. The only thing missing is a system that lets all of that potential move forward. In the end, it comes down to one final truth: simple, uncomfortable, and impossible to ignore. The United States doesn't have a construction problem. It has a structure problem. And until that changes, nothing will change.